Right, I'm going to just talk to you real quick about the brief procedure about replacing the air conditioning pump on this. This is a 2008, what is this thing? Encore or Enclave or whatever. Equinox, Chevy Equinox. And I'm just going to talk to you about the procedure in doing this. And you know, basic knowledge is basically release the Freon from the system. Of course, have it recovered in an area where you're supposed to do that. And you know, so definitely take all the Freon out of the system first. And then when you go to remove it, you've got 3 bolts here that hold it in place. Okay, this one here, what was bad on it is the clutch. But you know, it's cheap enough just to go ahead and replace the whole compressor. So we went ahead and got the whole compressor ourselves, because a lot of times you'll find out the clutch goes out and then not long after you start to have issues with the rest of the compressor, and they are actually kind of difficult to replace. So on this car we're just going to go ahead and replace the whole thing, and you'll notice right here there's no stud here, and the new one, I'm going to show you the new one. We already took the stud out. Let's put the new one next to it. Hang on a second. So before you throw your old one away, make sure you save the stud, because you're going to need the stud to be put back into the new unit. Now what we're going to do on this one, to inside this new unit there's oil. I'm not sure how much of it's in the actual reservoir that's inside of it or in the unit itself. So sometimes you're going to have oil leak out, and then you won't know exactly how much leaks out. So this one here is supposed to be charged with the proper amount of oil. So I'm going to just assume that the oil is correct in it, and we'll go from there. So one of the things we found that was a little bit challenging is where it's located. It's actually very easy to reach. It's located right here where my hand is. And one of the things you'll find when you go to take it out is it won't fit out this hole here. It has to come out this hole right here. It's very, very tight, and in order to do that we had to move this sensor out of the way. So you see the sensor here, those little things there. You remove it from these 2 holes right here, and then you can get it out this cavity right here. So if you're trying to do this procedure and you're finding out that you're having a little bit of difficulty doing that, that's the trick to do it. The rest is pretty common sense. You know, don't over tighten your bolts. Make sure you replace your O-rings on your line with the proper O-rings. Make sure they're definitely the PAG oil. I believe they're green or gray. I can't remember. O-rings that you put on there, and then install it back in the same place. And just check the new unit to make sure that it's clocked correctly. This part, the one I got, this is a Chinese model. It's a little cheaper, but the pulley lines up with the other pulley and all that, and then put it back in place. We're gonna go ahead and put it in and show you a little bit about that. So when we're gonna put it back in, we're actually gonna put the stud back in when it's in place. We're gonna go ahead and remove it now, but we're gonna put it back in place so that we keep the oil that's in the unit from coming out in our faces when we're trying to put it in place. Watch it here. Okay, so this is kind of how it works. You have to kind of put it up here, twist it around a little bit. You go around the other way. There's going to be a little jocking around there, and then it goes just like that. That's it. So we'll put the 3 bolts back in and put the lines back on, and we should be good to go. And of course fill it with Freon. Okay, one of the other things that you're going to find is a lot of people will tell you this car did not have any kind of debris in the system. There was no because the clutch itself was bad. If you take out your compressor and it was rattling before you took it out, you really want to make sure that you flush your system out with, I use brake cleaner, and then I'll use PAG oil, and then push it all through hydraulically and make sure I get all the metal shavings out of the system, and then replace the receiver dryer. But because this car had pressurized system and it wasn't, it hadn't leaked out the Freon, and if the Freon's leaked out for any period of time, you should replace the receiver dryer. And this car didn't have any problems with that. The pressure was fine in the system, and there was no leaks. so I don't need to replace the receiver dryer. I'm just going to go ahead and evacuate it and charge it up once we're done putting this in. To get the belt off, we found it a lot easier to take off this one little thing and do the job from underneath. So all you do is you lift up these little tabs and pull these out. There's 3 of them, very easy to do. This is actually just a plug for the air conditioning unit. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and finish buttoning this up. The 3 bolts go back in, the plug goes back in, fill it with Freon, put the belt on. The belt's basically it has a 3/8 drive. 3/8 drive, you just put your ratchet in there. It's easy, you don't need any special tools to do this really. Not a hard job. Use that to pry the, this will be able to pry the idler pulley. I don't know if you can see that. So that you can release the tension and put the belt back on. Job is done. So anyway, I just wanted to give you guys a short, the problems you might run into on this job, and just kind of go over them with you so that you can kind of do this yourself. It's really not a hard repair. Maybe if you don't know anything about it, you might want to watch some others. It's actually not a hard job. I would say this is about on the scale of a 1 to 10, it's probably a 2. So anyway, I'll talk to you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.